FastMCP 3 implements component versioning through a decorator-based registration system that allows multiple implementations of resources and prompts to coexist under the same identifier. This versioning mechanism enables backward compatibility and gradual API evolution by maintaining distinct versions of components while exposing only the highest version by default. The upcoming code demonstrates how to declare version resources and prompts using the @MCP resource and @MCP prompt decorators, where each version is explicitly specified and can evolve independently. You'll see how different versions of the same component can be registered with unique parameters and behaviors, setting the stage for version filtering and client-side version selection. @MCP resource config//app version equals 10 def config v1 str return format legacy @MCP resource config//app version equals 20 def config v2 str return format modern schema v2 @MCP prompt version equals 10 def summarize text str return f summarize text @MCP prompt version equals 20 def summarize text str style str equals concise str return f summarize in a style text. This code demonstrates FastMCP 3's component versioning system, which allows multiple implementations of the same resource or prompt to coexist under a single identifier. The pattern shown here is particularly useful for API evolution, where you need to maintain backward compatibility while introducing new functionality. By decorating components with version parameters, you create a clean separation between different implementations that share the same logical name. The versioning works through decorator parameters where config v1 and config v2 both respond to the same URI, config//app, but with different version strings. Similarly, the summarize prompt exists in two versions with different signatures, the v20 adding an optional style parameter. FastMCP automatically serves the highest version by default while maintaining all versions for targeted access. This approach enables gradual migration paths where new versions can be deployed alongside legacy ones, with clients able to specify which version they need through the version parameter. The trade-off here is increased complexity in component management versus the flexibility of supporting multiple API versions simultaneously. Version components must all be versioned. You cannot mix versioned and unversioned implementations of the same component. The system uses semantic version comparison for PEP 440 compliant versions, falling back to lexicographic comparison for other formats, which provides predictable version selection behavior. This pattern is particularly valuable in production environments where you need to maintain multiple API versions during transition periods without requiring separate deployments. Let's break it down. @MCP resource config//app version equals 10 decorates the class or function with the @MCP resource decorator, specifying that this component manages a resource located at the URI config//app and uses version 1. Def config v1 str defines a function named config v1 that takes no parameters and returns a string value. The function body is not shown in this segment, so only the signature is visible. Return format legacy returns a JSON formatted string with a single key value pair, indicating the format is legacy. @MCP resource config//app version equals 20 decorates the following class or function as a FastMCP 3 resource named config//app with version 2 making it discoverable and addressable within the FastMCP resource system under that specific configuration path and version.
Def config v2 SDR
defines a function named config v2 that takes no parameters and returns a string value. The function signature indicates it will produce a string output when called, though the implementation details aren't visible in this segment.
Return format modern schema v2
returns a JSON formatted string, specifying the configuration format as modern and schema version as v2.
At MCP prompt version equals 1, 0.
Decorates the subsequent function or class with the @MCP prompt decorator, specifying version 1 as a configuration parameter. This indicates the decorated entity will be processed by the FastMCP framework's prompt system using version 1 semantics.
Def summarize text SDR
defines a function named summarize that takes a single string parameter text and returns a string. The type hints indicate the parameter must be a string, and the return value will also be a string.
Return f summarize text
returns a formatted string that prefixes the variable text with summarize. The resulting string combines the static label and the content of text into a single output.
At MCP prompt version equals 2, 0.
Decorates the following function or class with the @MCP prompt decorator, specifying version 2 as a configuration parameter. This indicates the decorated entity will use version 2 of the prompt handling behavior when executed.
Def summarize text SDR style SDR equals concise SDR
defines a function named summarize that takes a required string parameter text and an optional string parameter style with a default value of concise, returning a string. The function signature indicates it will process text and return a summarized version based on the specified style.
Return f summarize in a style text
returns a formatted string that combines a style specification and text content, creating a prompt template for summarization tasks. The string uses f-string interpolation to insert the style and text variables into the pattern, summarize in a style text. FastMCP3's decorator-based versioning system enables multiple implementations of resources and prompts to coexist under the same identifier, facilitating backward compatibility and gradual API evolution. The @MCP resource and @MCP prompt decorators explicitly specify versions, allowing independent evolution of components while exposing the highest version by default. This pattern is evident in the config v1 and config v2 resources, both responding to config//app, but returning different JSON structures, and the summarize prompt, which gains an optional style parameter in version 2. The system's semantic version comparison ensures predictable version selection, supporting production environments during transition periods. The trade-off is increased complexity in component management, as all implementations of the same component must be versioned. This approach provides a clean separation between versions, enabling targeted access and gradual migration paths without separate deployments.
The decorator stamps versions on functions, but the strings refuse to wear them.